Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So we are going to dive in just a minute. So thank y'all for joining me here today. It is delightful having everyone here this evening. We are sitting in my home office, so it's not quite as bright as my studio, but it's a little more comfy this time of day. So thank y'all for coming. And just a little bit of housekeeping. So if by any chance you lose either the sound or the picture during the course of the webinar, what you'll need to do is refresh the window or log off and log back in. So we're using a different system than I did earlier in the week. It's the one I use most of the time for coaching, but it's a much more stable one. So we shouldn't have any problems. I think one of the things that contributes to having problems on webinars is when you are using Wi-Fi, and if you've got a lot of other tabs open, or if you're streaming other stuff. So if you have Netflix, Spotify, Google Drive, Pandora, Dropbox, any of those things going, turn them off. Because if your bandwidth becomes unstable or too narrow, then that's what causes you to lose the sound or the picture. If that happens, just log off and log back in, and you'll jump back in right where we are at the moment. So if you lose any of it, don't worry. There's a replay going out literally about 30 minutes after we get done tonight. So if you miss anything, you'll be able to catch up on it. So while we are giving everybody just a chance to get into the room, if you are here live, go ahead and type into the chat roll so that we know where everybody is joining from. So to get to the chat roll, move your mouse along this bottom part of the screen, and you'll see what looks like a little idea bubble with 3 dots in the middle. Click on that, and the chat roll will pop up either over here on the right-hand side if you're on a desktop, or if you've got a smart device like a phone or an iPad turned landscape. If you've got it turned vertically, then sometimes the chat roll will be down below and you'll have to scroll down to be able to get to any of that. So, hey Sheila, it's good to see you, and Randall and Gail from Raleigh, Betty from Charlotte, Gabrielle from St. Louis, Cindy from Minneapolis, and Jen from Windsor. Deborah's here from Marietta, Georgia, Ken from Tucson, Arizona, and Linda from Vancouver Island. I bet it's a whole lot cooler there than it is here right now. And Mary from Michigan. Thank y'all for being with me here tonight. So I am planning on diving into a topic that I'm extremely passionate about. It's something that I've had a long-term interest in. I taught entrepreneurship for artists at Columbia College before I left. So this, and I've worked with the South Carolina Arts Commission here in South Carolina on teaching entrepreneurship to artists. So it's something I feel we really avoid and we need to address. So let's dive into tonight's presentation. And if you have any questions that come up while we're talking, or while I'm talking, go ahead and type those questions into the chat roll. Because if you have a question and you don't write it down, you're going to forget it. And then it will not come back to mind until after we've hung up and everybody's gone home and gone to bed. So make sure you get those questions into the chat roll when they come to you. And I'm going to scroll back through that when we get done and make sure I get all of those answered. So get them in there when you have them. So let's dive in. So we're going to be talking about the idea of stop starving and start thriving, how to grow your own audience, following, and sales without a gallery. So I want you to think about how you can shift your mindset from the starving artist mindset to the thriving artist mindset. And we're going to do that by really diving into some of the beliefs that hold artists back. So if we haven't met before, although I think we probably have all met at one time or another, because I think most of y'all are either on my email list or in the free Facebook group. But just in case you haven't, I'm Mary Gilkerson, and today I'm going to be showing you how to get rid of the starving artist mindset and adopt the thriving artist mindset instead. To do that, I'm going to show you how to grow your own engaged audience, following, and sales without a gallery. So just a little legalese earnings disclaimer here, because I want to be really, really clear. This is not a get rich quick on the internet webinar. I know we've all seen those where, you know, you can earn $100,000 a month within 90 days. That's a lot of hooey, and people who make those kind of promises are giving people false promises, and I don't want to do that at all. People have different definitions of what success means to them. And so I think one of the important questions for all artists is, how do you define success? What does it mean to you? And then that needs to become your goal as you grow your art biz. So again, this is not a get rich quick scheme. It is something that does take some time to set up. Once it's set up, it does not have to take that much time out of your day. At first, what defined success for me online was just covering the cost of my studio and paints. So my story around moving into online sales goes back almost 10, actually does go back 10 years. I have shown in galleries for most of my adult career. I started showing in galleries as soon as I finished, before I finished graduate school back in 1990. And I worked with a number of galleries over the 20 years up until about 2008. And I'm still showing with galleries, by the way, but I worked with a number of different ones over that time period. And they had nice, consistent sales. And I got really used to that regular gallery check coming in addition to the money that I was earning as a college painting professor. So along came 2008, and y'all will all remember what that year was. That was the beginning of the Great Recession. So 2008 hit, and I started having alarm bells ringing in my head, because that was affecting all kinds of things in the economy. And it felt very, very, very unstable. And I watched as gallery after gallery after gallery across the country closed. So the whole system was in an uproar. One of the things that happened really quickly was that my regular collectors, and I've gotten spoiled. I had people who were regular collectors who showed up to all my openings and bought artwork over and over again. And they disappeared, literally. They quit coming to openings. They quit buying. And one told me privately that they had quit coming to openings because it was just too embarrassing. They couldn't afford to buy any art right then because the economy had gotten so bad. So the very people who were the art buyers were the people who were most, at the beginning, impacted really quickly by the Great Recession. So I watched my gallery income drop dramatically over the years between 2008 and 2010 when it hit rock bottom. And I mean real bottom. I don't think I sold a single painting in 2010. And I was in full-on panic mode. So I had been poking around, looking at online and tinkering and toying with it for a good while. I was familiar with artists like Dwayne Kaiser and Julia Smith, who were part of the daily painting movement. And when 2010 really started looking like a disaster, I started looking at artists that were successful online, that were able to reach out into a bigger, broader market and get beyond their own localized market. So I looked at Dwayne Kaiser, and the more I looked, the more I got excited. So I looked at his blog, his Painting a Day blog, and noticed that he was selling almost every one of those daily paintings he was making. And he was selling them starting at $100. So I started selling dollar signs, as all of us do when we look at what somebody else is doing without really understanding what's going on behind the scenes. And I did the math, and 30 days times $100 made $3,000 a month. And that looked really good right then. That would more than cover the cost of my supplies, materials, and my studio rent. So on eBay, where he was selling his paintings, a lot of them, when I looked, were going for even more than $100. So again, dollar signs blinking in my mind. Only thing was, I forgot a crucial point there. It's some of that behind the scenes stuff that I missed. I forgot that I only had 37 subscribers on my email list at the time. And my Facebook fan page had, I think, 150 people following it. Not many at all. At that point, they were called fans. So it wasn't the business page, it was your fan page. So at least I had started that, but I didn't have much of a presence at all. And I wasn't sending out an email newsletter, even, as much as I hate the word newsletter. I wasn't making regular posts online. So small wonder that in my first daily painting project, I really didn't sell that many. But gradually, as I kept showing up, posting regularly, and growing my email list, which is what happens when you show up and post regularly, those sales started happening. My email list grew, and it grew, and it grew. And one of the things about email lists is that once they grow exponentially, because it builds on itself, especially when you show up and post regularly. It's kind of like that story about if you start a savings account when you are very young, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're retirement age. Well, if you start an email list, it grows just like interest in a savings account. So start it now is my hint right there. First tip, really fast one. So like I said, gradually my list started growing, and I started getting more and more sales. But what really began to make a significant difference was when I did more than just post. Up until that point, I really didn't understand how email lists worked, or mass emails like that, bulk email. So it always shocked me when somebody would hit reply and send me back a comment. I thought, do they not understand this is bulk email? As if they should have known not to hit reply. Was I ever a fool? But when I started replying back and treating each of my subscribers like an individual person that had ideals, hopes, and dreams, and wants and needs, things changed. So I could not have been more wrong about that why would they hit reply thing. When people started replying and responding, then conversations started. And then I realized that was what was the most important thing. It's not about the number of followers you have, the number of fans, or the number of subscribers. You do need a critical mass, but it's much lower than most people realize. It's all about how engaged they are. Engagement is the awesome secret sauce. And when I began building those relationships, I began selling a whole lot more easily. So it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to get rich fast, but selling online is entirely possible for anyone. So my sales online were more sporadic until I got comfortable sharing my story as well as my paintings. Fast forward to now, and my art biz does way more than cover the cost of paintings, painting supplies, and my studio rent. 2 years ago, I was able to leave my full-time painting job at the college to go full-time in the studio at more than double what I was bringing home as a college painting professor. So I want you to know that you may have been trying to get followers and subscribers and customers online and things didn't go so well, I want to put those fears to rest. We're a lot alike. I am not a genius at marketing by any manner of means. If I can do this, you can do this. So that's what we're here for. I know you have a dream to share your art, because all of us want to talk to more than just ourselves. And that's what having an audience is. Your audience doesn't have to be huge. You have to decide what you want it to be and what you want them to do. But we all want our work to speak to somebody else. And in order for that to happen, we have to share it. So we're going to show you how to make that happen. My goal, if you're already selling paintings in a gallery, but would like to have online sales, is that you see how much potential there is for you online using the audience engagement strategies we're going to talk about today. I want you to think about a three-legged stool. It's a story that I've used with my students for years on describing how to develop a stable business. Doesn't even have to be online business, any business. To have a stable, sustainable business, you need a stool with 3 legs. Each of those legs represents an income stream. So you need to have multiple income streams. And think about it this way. A stool with 1 leg is not going to stand up at all. A stool with 2 legs can stand, but only if it's leaning on something else. It takes 3 legs to make that stool stand up, be sturdy, and be sustainable. So think about some of the different legs or income streams that you could add in addition to working with a gallery. It could be selling your work online on your own website. It could be selling your work on one of the online sales platforms. There are all sorts of different ways that you can market yourself online and the ways that you can build an audience online. So you can build an audience online to fund or to supply any of those income streams. It doesn't have to be selling online that you're supplying. So strongly urge everybody to develop that 3-legged stool approach. It's the only way to have a safe, sustainable, stable business. So if you're not selling your work online, if you're not already selling paintings, if you haven't started yet, but you would like to start, then following this audience engagement process will help you start getting consistent followers or customers online. You want to use online tools in an intentional way to build a community of fans and followers that then you can bring over into being delighted and wonderful customers through authentic engagement. And if you stay until the end, I have a free gift for you. So I'm going to be sending out later this evening, along with the replay link, a link to a free gift, and it is the Painter's Business Success Path PDF. It's a short little ebook, PDF ebook, and it's my step-by-step plan for getting your online biz up and running in the minimum amount of time. It certainly took me a lot longer, a lot more time than's necessary when I got started, and I want to cut that time down for you. So even if you don't do anything else, I want you to peruse the Painter's Business Success Path and start putting some of those things in place. My promise to you is that I will deliver as much real, tested, actionable content as I can in the time that we've got together. And I'm not going to waste any of your time. We've all been on those presentations that just ramble on. So I don't want to do that. And I want you to know that everything that I'm covering tonight is not just theory. All of it, everything that we're going to be talking about is stuff that comes from my own experience that I've tested out, that I know works. So online stuff changes all the time. So I want to know that what I'm suggesting that other people do works. So if you follow all the steps, it works. In return, I ask that you be open to challenging the way that you think about marketing and selling art online. In fact, be open to challenging the way you've thought about marketing all along. Marketing can be fun. Marketing is not just about numbers and money, and it doesn't have to be awkward and uncomfortable. Think about marketing as throwing a party for your fans and followers. You want to love all over them. So it's all about that relationship building. These people become your friends. So treat them like your friends, and marketing's not hard then. It becomes fun. So it doesn't have to be sleazy, cheesy, or boring, or awkward. It can be fun, a pleasure, and delightful for you as well as for them. So now grab that pencil and paper if you haven't already, because I want you to take notes, and make sure you've turned off your cell phone and closed all of those other tabs. If you're like me and tend to have 42 tabs open at one time, now's the time to close all of them, but the ones that are necessary. So during this webinar, you'll learn the 4 biggest beliefs that hold artists back, what's working now to build a devoted following of dream clients on social media and the internet, how to make your content creation faster and easier through starting with your why and using the power of story. Think back to what we've talked about already tonight. Did you hear me tell some stories in there? Hint, hint. Last but definitely not least, nuts and bolts stuff, my 7-step system for moving them from follower to fan and then customer. So we're going to be going over that 7-step system. What makes this different is that it is not about getting 10,000 followers on Instagram or subscribers on your email list. The focus here is on the people you're trying to serve and building real, tangible relationships with those people. Yesterday, I think it was, I got an email from one of those online art storefronts that wants you to come and build a portfolio on their site and give them a percentage of your sales. Those always annoy me. Only a handful of those really work. This one, I thought, really crossed the line, because what they suggested that people should do was to join theirs, because nobody was selling art online. And the only way to sell art online was if you subscribed to their system and their platform. And that's simply not true. One single platform is not the answer to everyone's solution. And there are plenty of artists who are making a living, a comfortable living, and then some online. We're going to look at some examples. Ashley Longshore is an artist in New Orleans. She has over 129,000 followers on Instagram and countless others on Facebook and her website. She markets via Instagram, her website, and now her own gallery on Magazine Street. Recently, she did something I think is really interesting. She started her own membership. Not a membership where people come and learn about how Ashley Longshore markets, but a membership for her collectors. So quarterly, for an annual subscription, people get a quarterly box from her. You know, like Bart Box and the fresh vegetables, cooking boxes, subscriptions that are out there. Well, every quarter, people get a box from Ashley that has a limited edition art creation inside of it. So I think they get 4 a year. Pretty sure it's quarterly. That's brilliant. Who would have thought to apply a membership program to collectors? It's been done before, but hers is one of the most creative that I've seen. She is definitely a sustainable artist. Then there's Dwayne Kaiser, who I spoke about earlier. He founded the daily painting movement, sold thousands of small paintings via email, still selling lots of paintings via email, and uses eBay to auction his paintings. That's a system that has worked really, really well for him. Julia Marrowsmith was an early adopter of daily painting and sold, again, thousands of small paintings via email and his website. Now, he did a little bit of a different twist. He put his own auction system on his website. What do they have in common? They all looked at it from the point of relationship. They've built up that devoted following of dream clients on social media and email and moved them into being subscribers and customers through having story and conversations with them in a very real and authentic way. So if they can do it, what's stopping everyone else? If they can do it, what's stopping you? Anybody have a comment they want to pop into the chat roll? What's stopping you from doing anything in particular that gets in the way? Anything else that gets in the way? Beliefs are the biggest one. So let's think about beliefs that get in the way. Scared? Yeah, Gail, it is scary. It's scary to put yourself out there, and then there's that fear of failure. Yeah, that definitely held me back. But what drove me forward back in 2010 was the fear of not having the money to pay the rent and having to move out of my studio that I'd been in at that point for 15 years. So that fear can be a huge motivator, but can also be a big roadblock. So we want to channel it to being a motivator instead. Beliefs are definitely the things that can get in the way. And usually they come from stories that we've told ourselves to explain our experiences. So beliefs are not truth. And if you don't take anything else away, hammer this into your brain. Beliefs are not truth. Beliefs are the stories that we tell ourselves to explain our experiences so that we can handle them. Because usually when something happens, we don't have an explanation for it. And the only way to get comfortable with it is to tell ourselves a story about it. And then that story becomes ingrained, becomes a belief, and holds us back. There are 4 huge beliefs that hold artists back from thriving. See if any of these resonate with you. The first is that you can't make any money in art. We've all heard that one. That's that starving artist myth. Belief number 2, I can sell just by putting up a website. I call that one the field of dreams belief. Belief number 3, I can't talk about my work. I've heard that from students going back the entire time I've been teaching, from the first year I taught until probably yesterday. The I can't talk about my work thing is really a big fear for a lot of people. And a lot of it has to do with the fear of being laughed at, that people will think what you say is silly, and couldn't be further from the truth. If they think it's silly, turn away from them and go to the person it resonates with. Belief number 4 is it takes too much time. I'd rather be painting. That is another fear that it kind of follows on some of the earlier ones. It's that if I take the time it takes to do the marketing and business part, I won't have any time to paint. So let's dive into each of these into a little bit more detail. Go back to the you can't make money in art. So I started way back as an art major. And my father, even though I come from a family of artists, everybody in my family is either in art or in science. So my going into art was not that unusual. I have cousins and aunts and uncles that did the same thing. But I still got the conversation, you know, the one I'm talking about, from my father, who said, I'm really concerned you're not going to be able to make a living in art. I think you should go into computer science. That was the newest emerging field then. And he thought it would be a really stable way for me to make a living. I, being a stubborn person, went, oh, hell no, hold my beer, I'll show you. Which was, did me a huge favor there, because that is just what I needed to go, oh, no, 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 no. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do this. Now, I give my daddy a lot of credit because he's a real sweetheart. He came back 10, 15 years after that, after I'd been long out of college and long out of grad school and earning my living in art. And he said, I was wrong. You were right. I take it all back. I'm really proud of what you've done. But I'm really glad he gave me that kick in the pants. So when somebody tells you you can't make money, I want you to turn around and tell them, Hold my beer and watch me do it. So that comes from the myth of the starving artist, and I've talked about it a lot over the last couple of weeks because it's so daggone pervasive, and it's so far from the truth, and it really hurts a lot of artists and keeps them from putting themselves out into the world. The reality is that more artists thrive than not. The starving artist myth goes back to the 19th century, to the sort of romantic idea of the starving artist in a garret in Paris, living on the wrong side of the river and drinking all night, sleeping all day, and painting during those lonely hours in between. And the artist that they hold up as the penultimate starving artist is Vincent van Gogh. Van Gogh was definitely not a starving artist. He worked for 6 years in one of the more elite galleries, and when he left that gallery to go paint full time, his brother gave him a monthly stipend to live off of. He wasn't starving, not by any manner of means. And his brother marketed his work. He did sell paintings during his lifetime, but that doesn't fit the mythology, and so people don't hear about it. Van Gogh was not a starving artist. In fact, there are a whole lot more that thrived. Going back to Michelangelo, who died what would be a millionaire in our standards today, to artists like Constable and Turner, who lived thriving lives. They're more well-known. Here's one that's not as well-known, but she's one of my favorites, and it's Rosa Bonner. Rosa Bonner lived about the same time as Van Gogh and about the same time as Puccini and others were really stoking that starving artist mythology with their work. And Rosa Bonner was the most successful painter in France at that time. And she was a woman. It was really hard to be successful in art as a woman then, but she did it. And not only did she do it, she was more successful than anyone else. She painted primarily animals and landscapes, and was so successful that she bought an estate outside of Paris, huge estate that she populated with wild animals that she brought in from around the world. She hobnobbed with the equivalent of the populist icons at the time, like Wild Bill Hickok. So she brought people in who were famous to visit her on her estate. She lived a thriving life, but that didn't fit that stereotype. And so a lot of people never heard of her after the end of the 19th century. Be like Rosa. Don't be like that starving artist. Yeah, Marla, I can spell her name. Let me type it in here into the chat roll. Then you can see it. Although I thought I had it spelt out. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't do that. Forgot to put it on the slide. There it is. Rosa Bonner. So, thriving artists, we get to decide. It doesn't have to be something where you're stuck in that starving, impoverished artist mode. And you can be in starving artist mode even if you've got plenty to eat and you live in a very large house. Starving artist mode is the idea that there's not enough, that you're not good enough, and nobody will ever buy your work. Not true. Definitely not true. So if you work consistently and develop a body of work, you can become a thriving artist just like Ashley Longshore, Dwayne Kaiser, and Julian Smith. Second of the 4 beliefs that hold artists back is that I can sell by just putting up a website, or build it and they will come. It's just not true. How many people do you know who put up a website and then been flabbergasted when they didn't have any sales? Instead, they had crickets. Well, the secret is that thriving artists use a system to engage. They don't just throw a website up and wait for people to come. They reach out and go find their ideal customers. They go look where their ideal customers hang out. And then they engage and start conversations, and they begin to have that relationship building. So you got to go find them. Where do you find them? You find them on other groups on Facebook and Instagram. where people hang out who are interested in the same kind of things you are, which is another reason why it's super important to know what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. People ask me all the time, should I paint landscapes or people to sell my work? And my answer to that is, what are you passionate about? Because it's the passion that people are buying, not the subject matter. So if you're passionate about it, you will emotionally connect with other people who are passionate about it as well. So you've got to step out and find them. When you find them, you can get what they call insights through Facebook and Instagram by posting regularly. You look at who engages with your posts, and you take those people who engage and you look at them in audience insights. Now, you can't see people's individual names, you can't see their birthdays, you can't see identifying stuff. It's all anonymous. But you can see a lot of what their interests are, and you can begin to see where they hang out, so where you can go and look for other people who are similar. If you see the kind of things they are liking and are interested in, then you can start making posts that address some of those same interests. For example, most of my collectors are really engaged around the environment. They are all across the political spectrum, all across the economic spectrum, but a lot of them are engaged in the idea of the environment, whether they are hunters and avid outdoorsmen, or they are conservationists and into protecting wildlife and waterways. That's a huge spectrum of people, but they share a love of the land and a love of nature. So I can make posts that address my own love of nature because I have a lot of those same interests. It's what fuels and fires my work. So that's how you get followers and begin to connect. You understand what they think about at night. You understand what their hopes and fears are. You understand what their dreams are. The more you understand, the more you can talk to them authentically, and the more you can create content that speaks to them. And you understand them by listening to them and having conversations. So you ask them questions, and then you listen to their answers. So it's all about that engagement. Once you have followers, you convert them to fans through that engagement. People like being addressed to on a personal level. So yes, as Bernice asked, do you make a professional Facebook page instead of using your personal one? Yeah, you do. You can't get any insights on your personal Facebook page. But if you have a professional Facebook page, they call it a business page, and a business Instagram account, you get those insights. So you can see when somebody clicks to follow you on either Facebook or Instagram, then you can see what their interests are. When somebody engages, when they like a post, or they comment on it, or they share it, then you get insights on their interests. So it's really important to begin to create that dialogue and conversation. So you get feedback from the insights, the data, but you also get a tremendous amount just from that conversation. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, and I've made it myself, we all get too busy at times, is that people make a post and they drop and run. So they make a post, plop it onto both Instagram and Facebook, same post, and then they repost it on all of the artist groups across the internet. So it's going to all the painting groups, 10, 12 painting groups all across the internet, same post. And then they go and they eat breakfast and they go to the grocery store and all that kind of stuff. And they never go back to check the comments. And so they never get that conversation started. And if you don't respond to people, they quit coming and checking you out. They go to the person who is responding. So that's why I said it's more important to have that engagement than sheer numbers, because you really do need that conversation to start happening, especially now as the algorithms on all of the social media platforms, not just Facebook, are changing. That's a topic for a whole nother webinar. When you have that conversation, then it becomes much more easy to sell. You can sell a lot more art or whatever else it is that you're selling, because people respond to that story and they respond on an emotional level. To really get to that emotional level, you need to begin to take advantage of story. And that's where that third belief really becomes a major roadblock for a lot of people. They say, I can't talk about my work. Part of that comes from they think they have to use big words and talk what we call art speak, the language of art critics. Now, I wrote art criticism for major art magazines and newspapers and local newspapers for decades. And what I was told when I was writing for newspapers was to write at the 5th grade level. So the language that I'd used in the national art magazines, I could not use when I was writing in newspapers. And that's because the art magazines use art speak, and the newspapers are trying to talk to real people. Not that people who read art magazines aren't real people, but the newspapers are trying to have a conversation. So you need to talk in language that's informal and everyday, like a conversation, not like a formal essay. And it's that formal essay thing that can really be a roadblock and hang people up. But what really makes a huge difference is something that is actually so simple. It's knowing your why. And there are multiple layers to why. I was just telling the members of my membership group that it's like peeling back the layers of an onion. The more you peel back, the closer you get to what universally speaks to everybody. So if your why at the beginning, and this is where that homework that I mentioned comes in. I think I mentioned to people that I was, you may not have seen, it was a post in my Facebook group that I was going to give people homework to think about what their definition of success is. That was my sideways way of getting you to start thinking about your why. Your definition of success might be like mine was at the beginning, to cover the cost of my studio rent and my art supplies. Perfectly legitimate why. But then you need to ask yourself, why is that important? Well, because I wanted to keep my studio space. Well, why is that important? Because I feel more alive when I'm painting. And then keep peeling those layers back. And when you get to those layers that are more universal, you get to the language that speaks to a whole lot of other people. And it's easier to convey why you're passionate. Then you need to find your outlet. And what I mean by that is that not everybody is a writer. Some people are writers. Some people feel more comfortable on video. Some people like to talk with slides in front of them of their artwork. All of those are perfectly legitimate. So you need to find your form and your outlet that allows you to communicate. And then you need to do a lot of communicating. You need to tell your story. You need to create content that connects. And stories connect on a real gut fundamental way. They connect on emotions. They connect on that emotional level. And it's emotions that sell, not logic. So when you want to make a connection and sell, you need to speak your passion to the other person's emotion so that they will connect and you will light them up. That is one of the greatest things that we can do as artists. It's not just about making the money. It's about making a difference in somebody else's life. And that's one of the things that gets you over that fear of making money or feeling dirty making money, is that when you connect with somebody else on that emotional level about your work, you're changing their life. One of my greatest experiences was watching the face of a follower as he sat in the gallery when I had a one-person show, and he was looking around the room at hundreds of those small paintings that I had done. Now, he was not familiar with the exact area that I'd painted them in, but the area was really similar to one he grew up in, and his whole face lit up. And he turned around and looked at me and said, "You've captured the light of the landscape that I grew up playing in. I can remember the fields looking just like that when my brother and I would go out in them in the fall. That's my why. And that creates a raving fan. Now, will he buy today, tomorrow? Maybe, maybe not. But people who you connect with and you continuously engage with move closer and closer and closer and closer until they can't stand it anymore and they've got to buy one. So story is extremely powerful. And as artists, we already have a leg up because our paintings tell stories. But when we add in the layer of telling stories about our paintings and about our lives and about the difference that painting makes in our lives, it becomes almost irresistible. The fourth belief that holds artists back is that it takes too much time. I'd rather be painting. Truth is, it doesn't have to take that much time. So the last secret here is that using a system actually saves time. And yeah, it takes a little bit of time getting it together, but not nearly as much time as it took me to put it together because I've got the system for you right here. You might have to tweak it a little bit to make it apply for you. But secret number 3 is to use the 7-step system. It's actually secret number 4. Secret number 4 is to use a 7-step system to build an intentional community. So I really do intentionally use the word community because when you start sharing your story authentically and engaging and building relationships with people, whether they are in Minneapolis, California, Australia, New Zealand, London, Ireland, France, South Africa, it doesn't matter where they are. You're still building a community. Community crosses geographic, regional, class, all kinds of lines. And that is a beautiful thing for people to do. So again, you owe it to the world to go out there and build your own community. So you can intentionally create your own community. There's 7 steps to getting there. First is knowing your why. That's what I talked about back in secret number 2. It's knowing your why. You got to know your why. What do you want to feel? What's your dream? And then peel back those layers of the onion. How do you want your viewers to feel? And what's your dream for them? How do you want them to respond to your paintings? Now, I don't mean that in a literal storytelling way. I used to have to get on my students. The seniors would have to talk about their work and write a paper about it. And oftentimes, they would impose this enormous amount of narrative baggage onto their paintings. For example, one would say something like, well, these paintings, and they are, say, a still life painting or a landscape painting, and you're looking at a landscape with 2 trees in it. And the student would then start waxing poetic about how this painting is about her grandmother's relationship with her great uncle and the torment that they went through throughout their lives. Well, that's a tremendous amount of, I'm exaggerating slightly there, but that's a tremendous amount of baggage to impose on a painting. Paintings create feelings, not literal narratives. And you can have subject matter in there that tells a story, but when you combine subject matter and style and technique and painting materials and color and light and composition and value, that creates a feeling and a gut response. That's what I'm talking about right there. So what are your dreams for the people who look at your paintings? If you're not sure, ask people, how do they feel when they look at your paintings? What do they dream about when they look at your paintings? And that'll give you some clues on where to go with that. Step number 2 is to create a consistent practice. You got to have a consistent body of work, whether you're going to sell it in a gallery, online, almost anywhere. If you are all over the place, it becomes hard for other people to see what your vision is. Doesn't mean that you can't pursue different subjects in different mediums, but what you present to the public and have a conversation about needs to kind of be in the same ballpark. So 10 to 12 pieces, you could go as few as 6, but they need to be consistent and kind of around the same stuff. It needs to be a series. And they don't have to literally be connected, but they need to have some relationships to each other. And you need to consistently practice making art and consistently practice building relationships. There's some tools you can use to do that. And there are a lot of ways that you can create direct sales from your website. I'm not going to dive into them too deeply. And I see some questions on that coming in already in the chat roll. So I'm going to come back to some of those too when we get to the Q&A part. But in order to have direct sales from your website, just on the mechanical tool level, you need to have a website that functions, and it needs to have the ability for you to post paintings easily yourself, and they could be photos that you take with your cell phone, because most cell phones are fabulous. There's some tricks to taking good photos with cell phones, but you don't have to hire a professional photographer. And you need to write a little story about it. I don't mean a long epic novel, but just a blurb that tells people what you were feeling when you were painting that. Why'd you paint it? Then when they click on it, you need to go to a page that allows them to make a purchase. So here you see the painting and the title, then there's the price and the cost of shipping and an add to cart button. So you need a shopping cart. Again, you can pay lots to have a shopping cart, or you can use the free PayPal shopping cart with a business PayPal account. Doesn't cost you anything. So there are ways to do this without spending a lot of money. You need that persuasive copy down there. And persuasive copy is just the story. A lot of times people think persuasion and they go, ugh. Well, remember, persuasion is sales. And every last one of us has been a salesman at one time or another. If you ever have had a 6-year-old who did not want to eat her vegetables, you have been a salesman because you have convinced that child to eat the vegetables so they can grow up strong. That's persuasive copy. So you need to tell the story of that painting, which is what I had done there. So you make those sales through the power of story. Step number 4 is to pick one social media platform to start with. And I used to recommend Facebook first, but now I'm really recommending Instagram over Facebook if you have to pick just one. But in tandem, Instagram and Facebook work well together. But the reason I say to pick one to start with is that if you scattergun your focus across the whole internet, you will not make any headway. Pick one, really get the feel for it, and make an impact before you move to the next one. Concentrate on that one social media platform for a while. So Bernice says, how do you get people to look at your Facebook page? By going in other groups and recommending yours? Well, one of the ways that you do that is you can invite, when you're first getting started, when I first did my email list, I said I had 37 subscribers. 2 of those were my email addresses. One was my mother's, one was two were my sisters, and I think one was my daughter's. So invite your family and friends to begin with and ask them to share it. So you start by getting in the people you know. When you start a Facebook business page or an Instagram business page, you have the option to invite friends to follow you. Don't invite 500 people at one time. Invite 10, and then another day invite another 5, and then invite another 10. And if you use video on any of those, you'll begin to get followers very quickly because both of those algorithms love video. So video is the real key, and I'm telling stories out of school, but video is the real key to building that following. So use video. Go live on Facebook, go live on Instagram. Use Insta stories. Get in there and people will follow you. Then as soon as you start getting any followers, talk to them and ask them to share your stuff with their friends if they think their friends would like your stuff. Once you've picked that first, you can think about moving on to a second platform. You can think about Pinterest, you can think about Twitter, you can think about some of those other platforms. But please don't scattergun across everywhere. Yes, Bernice, linking the videos to YouTube is great. Now, what you want to do is with Facebook Live and Instagram, go live on there, then download the videos and upload them to YouTube. I do that. And that is absolutely a great strategy. Don't repost YouTube videos into Instagram and Facebook. The algorithm does not like that, and you'll get almost no reach at all. So you got to use native on Facebook and Instagram. And for YouTube, you need to upload it directly in there. YouTube is a great platform. It's just a little bit more difficult for a lot of artists to get started with, which is why I didn't list it there. But I actually like YouTube better than Twitter. Step number 5 is to find your niche. Who's your ideal customer? Get to know them super well. What are their hopes, their fears? How will your work make them feel? Where do they hang out? How do you find this out? Well, I've already talked about that a bit, so I'm not going to go back into it in a whole lot of detail, but you find it out first by asking them and then listening to what they say. You find out where they hang out, what they are interested in. You look at your insights on Facebook and on Instagram so that you can see where their interests are. Look for things that are commonalities. Then you need to start building your email list and say no to the newsletter. So I'm going to go against some advice that a lot of other people will tell you in the art biz marketing world. You don't need a newsletter. And by that, I don't mean you don't need to send out email. You do. But don't send that monthly newsletter that has a list of all your accomplishments for the month and the awards you've gotten and your trip to Europe and blah, 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 blah. Because that's all about you. When in fact, it needs to be all about them. It's about your customers, not about you. So remember the great art of letter writing and storytelling. Write those emails as if you're writing to one person, your ideal customer, and have a conversation with them so that it's about them, not about you. Email more than once a month. 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, we had a whole lot fewer emails in our email inboxes. We get hundreds in there every day now. So if you only write once a month, the person who subscribed is going to forget who you are by the time the next month's email comes. And they're liable to hit unsubscribe and mark it as spam. You don't want that to happen. You need to have a conversation. The only way to build a relationship is to have more conversations. Email at least once a week, preferably twice a week. And that is the biggest stumbling block that I have with my students is they don't want to do it because they feel like they're imposing on their subscribers. You're not. As long as you're not writing those long, dreadful newsletters, you're not imposing. You're writing engaging, entertaining, educational content. And you're not writing your list of awards. If you are just writing a brag newsletter, yeah, it's insulting to have that twice a week. But if you're writing engaging, entertaining content, people will look forward to it instead. Love on your customers. Number 7 is tell the story of your work. People buy based on emotions. So when you paint a picture of what you're trying to sell, it becomes almost irresistible. And you may not be selling something for dollars at that moment. For example, this past week, I wrote an email that I sent out to my collectors list about a painting, one of the small dailies, and it was about a cornfield and about the fact that at this time of year in South Carolina, when you drive a country road, even when you're in a big car, because I have a big car, I've got an SUV, the corn is taller than the car. So you're below the corn. And it's a really odd, disturbing feeling because all you can see is the road if you're between two cornfields. It's really odd. And then I veered into talking about the other things that come in July in the South. July is the month of corn, fresh corn, tomatoes, and watermelon. And when you get Southerners talking about tomatoes, they can go on forever. So I talked about tomato pie, fried green tomatoes. But the thing that we love the most that has to do with tomatoes is tomato sandwiches. And there's a huge debate in the Southeast, particularly in South Carolina, between two warring mayonnaises that are used in making tomato sandwiches, Hellmann's and Duke's. And so I sparked the Hellmann's Duke's war and got people talking about that. I wasn't selling anything in that email. I didn't post any prices, and I didn't say go buy anything. There was not a single go buy my stuff in that email. It was all about, do you prefer Hellmann's or Duke's? And then I talked about ducking. I did sell a painting. Now, not that one, because I didn't have a price on that one. I intentionally did not have a price on it because I didn't want that email to feel salesy. But somebody who got that email went to my website, looked at that painting, looked at others, and bought another painting. So that's kind of an indirect selling process. I told a story and I made a sale. People buy based on emotions. In this case, they bought because of tomato sandwiches. So to go back through those really quickly, know your why, create a consistent practice, build a website, pick one social media platform, find your niche, build your email list, and tell the story of your work. Those are the 7 steps. And remember that the secret sauce is the engagement. So the secrets to thriving are: 1, know that it's possible. Find a role model. Look for other artists out there who are succeeding, doing the kind of things that you want to do. So look for other people whose definition of success is the same as yours. Follow what they do, even if you're not going to apply everything that they do. Secret number 2 is to build a devoted community of your own, of dream clients using social media and email, and move them into being fans, followers, and customers through authentic engagement using story. I'm going to hammer story home tonight a lot. Knowing your why makes it easier to share and tell your story and the story of your work. And when you use it, selling becomes a whole lot easier. Use my 7-step system efficiently, and it'll guide you through the process of creating your engaged community in less time than it took me to do it. So we get to choose the starving artist mindset or the thriving artist mindset. And it's not as hard as you may have thought to pick the thriving artist mindset. It's where I want you to go. I'm strongly reiterating that you need to think about pushing towards that idea that there's an abundance of viewers and collectors out there who will be interested in what you do. The system is not just theory. It works. So if you take just one thing away tonight, I want you to take away the idea that you can do this, that you can grow your own community, that you can create your own tribe of raving fans. I've created a system and community that make it simple to build your online art business. And I've shared that system with you today. So in this past hour, I've gone over a lot of stuff. Anybody feel like they are drinking out of a fire hose, or somebody has stuck their head under the spigot? So I've thrown a lot of stuff at you. Yeah, it is a lot. I know it is. And I want it to sink in and gel as well. But would you agree it's been time well spent? I hope it has. Good. I can't cover everything that you need to know in just an hour. Even if we had a whole day, it wouldn't be enough time. So here's the big question. How can you use this system for setting up your own online presence and take advantage of it to grow an online art business? Option 1 is to go it on your own and keep doing what you've been doing. But you know the old saying, you can't expect different results if you keep doing the same things you've been doing. So option 2 is to get results more quickly with the resources and the support you need as a member of the Painter's Business, which is my online course for painters on how to develop their own art biz, where you'll have the trainings, resources, and support that you need to create a thriving business. It's open right now for a limited time, and it has basically I've organized it around that 7-step process. So you start by developing your why and your success plan, move through finding your audience and niche, building your platform and social media hub, creating content, build your list, define your offer, and then work on story selling. The online platform doesn't have to be hard, Deborah. It can be as simple and free as a blogger blog, a PayPal shopping cart, and MailChimp's free plan. So all of those are free. You're not paying anything near yet. So you're not paying for hosting and all that other stuff. Blogger, Wix, and Weebly all have templates. Now, I'm not super fond of those as your final destination, but they're fine places to start with. The trouble with them is it's hard to export it and get it onto a regular website. So if you want a more developed website, then places like Faso are great, and they give you the shopping cart, the email system, and the website for one price. And they're fabulous. Their support system is great. So they can walk you through all of that kind of stuff. So if it's tech that holds you back, Faso's your answer. If it's money that holds you back from developing your platform, there are free sources out there that help you get going. So you can see the course goes through those same 7 steps. Now I want to walk you through everything that you get if you decide to join us when you get access to the course. Now, Gabrielle has Faso and says they have great tech support. It is fabulous. What you get with the course, this is a package. It's not just the course. The Painter's Business course is a $7.99 value. That is the price that it will be come September. It's not the price it's going to be for y'all tonight, but it's the price that it will be in September. Then the second thing that's part of the package is something that I am really excited about. I haven't offered it before. It's 10 sales closes to move more art. These are actual scripts that I describe and walk through so that you can see how to apply them to closing art sales, whether they are online or in person. And again, they're all based around story and around conversation. So it's not the schmaltzy kind of stuff or the smarmy stuff that people worry about doing when they're selling. These are conversation starters. In fact, think of them like that, conversation starters that help you to move more art. Then the third part of the package is a debrief and case study of my 12 by 12 daily painting project. That was my second daily painting project, and that was the one that really launched me online. It was the one where I began to have success in selling the paintings and in moving art from my website to my collectors' homes. So it's the first time I've offered this, and it's a detailed backstory and study of what worked and what didn't in that process. I really like thinking about painting projects or painting things as projects because they have a definite beginning, middle, and end. So instead of thinking about series, I think about projects because I've always loved projects. And when you talk about projects, it's a little easier to wrap your arms around it. Gabrielle says, can you recommend a price point for the 12 by 12 painting project per piece? It all depends on the size and the price points that you've used in the past. And so when you're looking at pricing, you look at what people have paid before for your work and what people are paying for work by artists who are at the same point in their career and the same skill level. And then you figure in the cost of materials and things like that. So I've got a formula in the course for exactly that, Gabrielle, because I know that's one of the biggest issues that people have is figuring out how much to charge. And it all depends. So I've got a formula for figuring out how much you want to earn and then how much to charge for the size, because there are 2 parts to that formula. Then the fourth thing is one of my favorite parts. It's the artist story arc template and content guides and email templates. Because again, one of the things that holds people back is this idea of thinking about having to come up with content. So I've got templates, content guides, which are prompts for your posts and possible emails, and email templates themselves that will help you get your own jump started. So you're not starting from scratch like I did. We have a bonus Facebook group that is a community group that is a thriving group of wonderful arts entrepreneurs. And I have, for the first bonus, a 1-year membership in the Artwork Living Community Membership, which is the membership that we started back in May. It is a $197 value for that full year. So that covers from the time you join the course till the year goes by. You're not automatically renewed. You can stop the membership after that if you want to. But the membership is where we gather to really starting to gather to really give each other feedback on a more regular basis. I'm finding that people really are interested in moving away from Facebook as their primary place to gather and to share information after the Cambridge Analytica scare. So I've created an online community that's private and away from Facebook. Then bonus number 2 is access to me. We will have weekly coaching calls that go on for a full year. So you'll have weekly coaching calls every Tuesday at 3 o'clock is our time. If you can't be there, then you can send in questions ahead of time or send me a question via email or in the group, and we will cover that. We'll look at people's paintings. I critique people's paintings during those weekly periods. Not so much for this group because this is more about business. I'll critique people's emails and what they've written. But if you're worried about whether a body of work is hanging together well and is creating that consistent body, we can look at it there too. So those coaching calls are recorded. So if you can't be there, you'll be able to access them. The total value of that is $2,684, but that's not what it's going to cost for you to get started. My fast action bonus, which expires tomorrow at midnight, is for fast action takers only. So if you join the course before midnight tomorrow, you get a 60-minute private one-on-one coaching call. You need to use it in the next year, but you get to sit down with me on Zoom like we are doing here tonight, except you'll be on the other side and I can see you and talk to you, and we can share files and all of that kind of good stuff and hash through any of the roadblocks or false beliefs that are holding you back. So I don't do one-on-one coaching except through my courses and as bonuses anymore. I just don't have the time. So this is an unusual and time-limited offer. So what you get again is the Painter's Business course, the 10 sales closes to move more art scripts, the debrief and case study of the 12 by 12 painting project, and you can absolutely set up your own daily painting project that imitates everything in there. Just don't use my titles. Then the fourth thing you'll get is that artist story art template plus content guides and email templates, the Facebook community group, the 1-year bonus membership in Artwork Living Community Membership, weekly coaching calls for a year, and if you act fast, a 60-minute private one-on-one coaching call. So like I said, the total value of that is $2,981 for the full package. But for y'all tonight, the entire package is $599. There is a payment plan. The payment plan is on the website that's linked down there below. So let me put that in there. And Donna, I see that you can't hear anything. So I'm going to type in there something for you. Donna, you need to refresh the window. So you need to refresh the window if you can't hear. it's your browser. Refresh the window on Zoom. You may need to log off and log back in. That will take care of it. But if you're interested in learning more about the course, you can click the link here and go to the website and see more information about what the course is involving and what those payment plan options are. So it's $159 a month for 6 months. Make sure I added that right. I think that sounds right. And it's on the sales page. We'll go over there in just a second. And if you pay in full, you get a slight discount. So it's $5.99 if you pay in full, or $159 a month. So I want to double check to make sure that nobody has any other questions. Bernice, here's the link. So the link that I just popped into the chat roll is the link for the sales page and the information page for the course. And if you head over there, you should be able to find more information. And let me just make sure. I'm going to pull it up in just a second and show y'all what is involved in going through that, because websites can be a little funky. One of the things I forgot to mention is that I do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there's no risk. So if you get in there and online is just not for you, I don't ask questions, I just refund. So I want people to feel comfortable when they pay or they join something, that if it's not right for them, they'll be able to get out of it. So that is one reason that I always, on all of my online offerings, have a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. Here's the link. There it is. So you may need to scroll down if you don't see it. For some reason, it's up above, so it keeps going away. And you can pay in full. There's a button on there to pay in full. So I'm going to take y'all there and show you what the page looks like. And I think that makes it easier to see. And then there's no confusion. You can actually see the web address. So here, can you see the screen? Let me know if you can't see the screen. It's not showing me the little, there it goes. Now it's doing right. Okay. So it's MaryGilkerson.com/paint_BUS. So let me make sure that y'all can see the link. Yes, Beverly, I know you do have a membership already. So yeah, the membership free year gets added on to what you've already got. So your free the free year annual subscription, 1 year, 12 months for the membership will be added on. So if you've already got a year, I think you joined right away. So you've got 3 months that you've already done, you'd have a whole nother year added on to that. The link is right up at the top. So let me pop it into the chat roll here again. Artwork Living is $20 a month or $197 a year, Gabrielle. So I'll be sending more information about that out later for those who are not ready for the course. So let me scroll back up here and look for the questions in just a second. But this is the sales page, and you can go to it and take a look at your leisure at what's involved in the course, what you'll learn. If you're interested in joining tonight or by the deadline tomorrow, in order to get that bonus of the 60-minute private call, then you'll go down to the bottom and you can choose whether you're going to do 4 payments of $159, which adds up to just a little over $600 for processing, or pay in full for $599. So it ends up being around just under 600 or just over 600, either way. So if a payment plan works better for you, by all means do that. I don't want anybody to overextend themselves financially. When you click the button, it takes you to my shopping cart. And my shopping cart is not on my site. It is on a private, secure web hosting service. It's on ThriveCart, which is behind multiple firewalls. I have firewalls. They have more than I do. So I don't keep data on my website. So it's a secure checkout and it's encrypted, and you can choose right there whether you want to do the full pay or the split pay. And you'll go down and enter your information. You can choose between credit card or PayPal. Enter your information and click Add to Cart. When you click Add to Cart, it'll take you to a page with a link. And that link lets you go directly to the course site. And you can set up your password and your username right then and there and get right on into Module 1. So Gail says, how long do you think it would take someone to get all of this set up and working? It is an incremental thing. It's like starting any other business. So it takes, I think, the full 8 weeks, because you get a module a week for 8 weeks. It takes the full 8 weeks to get the bones and the foundation and the skeleton in place. And then you need to start working the system. So you have to put in more work at the front end of it. And then you just have to keep the consistent engine going. So it depends on what your goals are. You're not going to make $100,000 doing that in the first year. You might not even make it in the second year, but it is entirely possible to do that. Like I said, I started back in 2011 doing the daily painting project. It took me a year and a half to figure out how to make it convert to making money. And I hit 6 figures 3 years ago. So I don't want y'all to have to take that length of time to do it. And it won't, because I've already figured all that stuff out for you. So it just depends on what you want to do. You're not going to have 10,000 fans and subscribers in 3 months. It can take a year to really begin to build a huge following, but that doesn't mean you can't make sales. I think actually a small list from having around 300 to 500 followers, you can begin to make sales. 300 to 500 people on your email list, and about that same on each social media platform, and you can begin to make sales. And that can happen fairly quickly. It doesn't have to take 6 months to a year, but you've got to be consistent on posting and sending emails more than once a week. So it just means it depends on how much of a commitment you're willing to make to doing that. I think everybody can do it. I think somebody had asked a question about doing that while they're working. You can still do it while you're working. I sure did. I was working a full-time job when I started doing that. Sue says, how do you get an email address from the, oops, didn't need to turn that off. Sorry. Let me go back to there. How do you get an email address from a post on Facebook? The way you get an email address from a post on Facebook is that you offer them something in exchange for it. So I post frequently, we'll post painting on Facebook, and I'll have a link on there to go to my website to see more, or do something, tell a story that entices them to click the link to go to my website. So that it leaves out a crucial part of the story. So to get the rest of the story, they got to click the link. When you do that and they go to the website, then at the bottom of each of the pages or on the sidebar is a box that says subscribe. Join my list to get my paintings almost daily. And people subscribe. So I don't directly ask them to subscribe in the Facebook post. I send them to my website where they read and they think this is fun, engaging, and entertaining, and then they sign up in the box below. So that's how you do it. Yeah, and it all can be scary. I just want it to be less scary than it has been in the past. And absolutely, every last one of you is good enough. Yeah, Sheila says, lack of confidence that my work is good enough. I can tell you right now, Sheila, it is. And you've been doing that national park series that I think is phenomenal. And it just cries out for story selling. So you got to start doing it. Bernice, you can use my Hold My Beer line anytime at all. And I think some of these questions I've already answered, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Gabrielle says, I've been at this for a while. I have about 450 on my personal page and over 600 on my Facebook and email newsletter connected to my blog and website. So when you say 450 on your personal page, do you mean on your personal Facebook profile? Because that you really cannot market on your Facebook personal profile. And I want everybody to realize that violates Facebook terms of service, and you can end up getting your account shut down. So they don't want people doing business on your personal profile. You can sell like you have a garage sale kind of stuff on there, but you can't market your art directly. You can share your paintings, and that's a great thing to do. I do that, but you can't talk about marketing a course or marketing a series of paintings and asking people to subscribe to your email list on your personal profile. So what matters is not your personal profile or your personal accounts. What matters is your business account, your business Facebook page, and your business Instagram account. So if you've got about 600 on your Facebook page, is that Facebook and email? That's a good number, but how often are you talking to them is my big question there. Because if you're only sending out a monthly newsletter, you've got what's called a cold list. If you're only posting occasionally on Facebook and you're not responding and engaging, that's what's holding you back, and that's what's making your wheels spin. So you really need to post more often, and you need to respond more often, and you need to email more often. Email twice a week, post every day. Absolutely every day. So, yeah, Gail, going back to your question on the amount of time, I think it takes about 2.5 months to get the framework set up and another couple of months to work out the personal kinks that you might have with it to make it feel comfortable for you. It'll feel awkward for a while, but I think you can begin making sales. You can begin making a sale more comfortably in the months following that. And Deborah, Amel mentioned it already, the online platform thing can be really intimidating. Tech is one of the biggest things that holds people back. But there are ways to do it that are relatively pain-free. Squarespace has templates that are push-button easy. Faso has templates that are push-button easy. And the service on both of those platforms is remarkable. I prefer Faso for artists because Faso is run by artists, specifically for artists. And the templates used to not be great, but now they're wonderful. And their support staff is extremely responsive. They get right on top of things, and I've had them respond really well to my students and get in there and set up the shopping cart for them, set up the Facebook pixel for them, set up the email system for them. If anything goes wrong, you can call them. So there's a tech person on the other end of the line. It does not have to be super, super difficult. And yeah, Jane, it is super important to tell your story. Vastly important. It's an underrated skill. Is it worth it to do it? Mary says, is it worth it to do it if you're working full time and will only be able to devote 20 hours a week for at least another year? Should I wait until I'm fully retired when I have more time? No, get started now. I think if you devoted 20 hours a week for another year, you would be in phenomenal shape. And I'm including making paintings in that 20 hours a week. So if you devoted 20 hours a week to painting and to online art sales, I think when you retired, you'd be in splendid shape. So it doesn't need to take more time than that. Definitely not. Absolutely not. Jen says, how do you spell the website maker that you were just talking about? FASO is FASO, is the artist's website service that I recommend. And I'm not an affiliate for them. I just think they're wonderful. They are phenomenal. And as Gabrielle says, her blog and newsletter are through FASO, and it is really awesome and easy. Yeah, they do have a shopping cart, Bernice. It's built right in. You can use your own shopping cart, but FASO has one, and they'll help you set it up. The course starts, Mary, as soon as you enroll. So you can dive right into the introduction and the first module right away, and you can go at your own pace. So it's drip fed, one module per week for the next 8 weeks, and then there are a couple of bonuses. But if you need to take 2 weeks on a module, that's not anything to worry about. What I usually tell people is to remember to take the time it takes. Life happens and stuff gets in the way. Everybody doesn't have to be doing this in lockstep. You're in with a group of people who are interested in doing the same thing, but you don't all have to be at exactly the same point. So go at your own pace. That's one of the beauties of online learning. The only part of it that's live are the Q&As on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So you can do this. And is FASO expensive? No, not when you add in all that they give. They have several different plans that go from a basic plan to what they call their gold level. And the last time I looked, the gold level was something like $30. And the gold level has the shopping cart, the email, great support. It has everything you need. So it's the whole package to get started, and it includes web hosting. So you can, I think that they cover the domain name too. So you can get started with FASO for $30 a month. You can also do free, like doing a Wix website and PayPal shopping cart and MailChimp's free plan, which goes up to 2,000 subscribers. But the next best deal is the FASO $30 a month. It's pretty cool. Yeah, Gabrielle says she's been with them for years and they get back to you ASAP. That has definitely been my experience. My website is one I designed. I used to work as a freelance web designer for years. So I'm a control freak on my website. So I did it myself. It's a WordPress website. But if I ever went with anything else, it would be FASO. So they're fabulous. I've never heard of any of my students having problems with them. Jane says, is it okay to sell a painting on Instagram on paper without a mat? Sure it is. You just have to be careful how you package it up for shipping. So absolutely, you don't have to sell it with a mat. I don't sell my pieces framed online. You can use that as what they call an upsell, but I don't sell them framed because A, that adds weight in shipping, and B, people like picking their own frames out. So you don't need to have it matted. You will need to have it in what they call like a clear bag with some foam core behind it. And the archival clear bags will protect the piece on paper. And it folds over kind of like a Ziploc, except it's for art. And then you package it up to ship it out so that it won't get all bent up. But absolutely, you can sell it like that. Ooh, I didn't realize they had a platinum, Gabrielle. I'll have to go look at that. Yeah, 28 is the gold, I think. Copywriting your work. Your work is copyrighted as soon as you create it. That's the law if you're here in the U.S. To protect it fully, you can copyright it through the Library of Congress. To do that costs money. What artists do, and I've talked to a copyright lawyer about this recently, like about a month and a half ago, and he agrees that the most cost-effective way for artists to do that is to copyright a body of work rather than each individual piece. It still protects each individual piece, but it means you pay one fee instead of paying like 10 different separate fees. So it's paperwork, and I haven't done that much of it, but I have had friends who had work taken. They could prove copyright because they declared it, but they hadn't filed it. And it did take longer for him to work through the legal issues with the person who stole his work and profited off of it. They eventually settled it and came to an agreement, but it took a little bit longer. So it's not a bad idea if you begin to build that into your process, but you don't have to. You're protected from the moment you create it. You just need to document your work so you can prove that you created it. Yeah, FASO is great for people who are not tech savvy at all. And yeah, once you subscribe, it is auto pay. Until you unsubscribe on FASO, you're on there. Jen says, if you paint on hardboard or canvas, do you do anything to the back of it before packaging and shipping or delivering? Yes, it depends on how big. When I am prepping stuff for shipping, I put foam core board behind it. I make a foam core sandwich for the artwork. So I wrap it in plastic first, not bubble wrap. Don't ever wrap in bubble wrap, but I wrap it in plastic and use tape to close that up so that it's protected from water damage. Then put foam core or styrofoam, if it's too big, as a sandwich around it, and then bubble wrap, and then pack it up in the box. So whole system there. You don't have to even mail it as long as you've got it on your computer. Gabrielle says, I've heard of the poor man's copyright. Take a pic of the item and mail it to yourself and never open the envelope. It is, as long as you document it, and if you have it I use a spreadsheet. One of the ways I used to use was a spreadsheet in Excel, and I had the image, the title, and all of that stuff. I've got it in a database now. So my shopping cart that I use for selling art is a database, or collects them in a database. So I've got it in there and it's all dated, and I've got the photos on my computer, it's all dated. So it's one of the few anal places that I have over documented it. And if you do that, then you're in good shape. You don't have to send it to yourself. I think I have got all of the questions. If there is any, oh no, I have another one. Proof of reference in that mailed envelope. I don't think you need to do that, because that's going to cost you, 50 cents a day if you paint one a day. And I don't think that really doesn't prove anything any more than the timestamp does anymore. You need help on clicking on the link? I'll give you the link again, and I'm going to send you the link. I'll send you the link in just a few minutes along with your gift. I'll send it as soon as we hang up, and then send you the link with the replay. Sorry that link is not working. Yeah, I'm going to send everybody the link. So I'll send the link out to the course and the link to the free gift in just a second. And thanks to everyone for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure. I have had a really great time talking with y'all. The replay will be going out later tonight so that you can go back and check your notes. And I want everybody to take an action on something. Joining the course or not, I want everybody to do something that takes their art biz a step further. And remember, you can do this. You got this, okay? Happy painting, everybody. Take care. And yes, Eric, I do still teach online. I have an art course, a painting course online called Composition, Color, and Light. So I actually have 2 painting courses online. So I have a series of painting courses online. So yes, I do. I'll send you the link to that one, Eric. I have your email in the system. So you can look at that one too. Take care, everybody. Happy painting, everyone. It's been a pleasure talking with you tonight. Have a great one. Bye-bye now.